Hello, let's do a Christmas DIY together. This year I was thinking, what do I want to make? And I was like, maybe I could do some Wedgewood Inspired Ornaments. So that's what we're doing. So the clay for this, I'm using paper mold clay. I just ordered it on Amazon. I got a brick of it, and the brick should make between 15 to 20 ornaments, just depending on how thick you go and how big your ornaments are. There's like lots of ways you could make this. You could just use the clay, put it in molds, and then paint everything. But how I'm going to try to do it is I am using the clay and I'm squirting in paint and I'm mixing it and kneading it until it's uniform and until I get a color I like. And then I'll put that in the molds and then I'll paint it. And my point of view on this is that if the background's a solid color, it's going to look more like what Wedgewood actually is, and then painting the white won't be so hard. So mixing the paint into the clay is kind of a pain in the butt. It's really messy. I tried using gloves first, but I hated that, so I ended up just using my hands, and you usually have to wash your hands really well afterwards. It's a mess, but it works really well. One thing you do need to know is if you put too much paint into the clay, it's gonna get stringy and really sticky. So cornstarch is your best friend for this project. Put some cornstarch in and knead that in. It's not going to change the color, but it will make it thicker. It's kind of like adding flour to cookie dough. You know, when it's not easy to work with and it sticks to everything, it's terrible, but the flour makes it not stick. That's the cornstarch for this project. One thing to note with when you are making the colors is that it will always dry lighter than it looks. So if you're like, oh, it's a little bit too dark, it's okay, it'll dry a little bit lighter. So just think about that as you're mixing the clay. And then once you're done with each color, you can start putting them in the molds. And once again, if it's too sticky or you're using like a wood mold like I am, you want to put a little cornstarch in first, and that will keep it from sticking. So again, cornstarch is your bestie on this project. And you're going to push the clay into the mold. Sometimes I use my fingers to jam it into the spots that are like really deep if needed. And I also have a popsicle stick on hand, so I can kind of push the clay in and try to make it like as flat as I can on the back. And you just want the impression to come through nice and clean, because that's where it's going to be special, is with the detail. So push it in nice and deep, smooth it on the back, use your fingers to make it as smooth as you can, and then pull the mold off. And sometimes I had to, like, the clay wouldn't come out of the mold, so I'd kind of have to tap the mold on the table until the clay would drop out. Just make sure to watch it carefully, because if you push the mold onto the clay when it falls out, you'll ruin it. You'll have to start all over again. And a lot of times I had to start over and try until I get it right, but it's worth it, because if you get it right, it looks really nice. So once you have all of your molds ready to go, you're happy with your ornaments, how they're molded, you're going to put them on a sheet, like a rack for drying cookies, and you're gonna have those dry. Mine took a whole weekend to dry. It took a while, and the thicker ones take longer to dry. I was drying them in a room that's like really cold. It was like 65 degrees, so that's not a good idea. So if it's in a nice warm room, it should probably dry like overnight or like a day and a half. So once the molds are totally dry, for me, I had cornstarch on a bunch of them, so I had to rinse those off. And then I took them to my craft room and I started painting the details white. And actually this was really fun and easy, because like if you just kind of like lightly brush your paintbrush over it, I use craft paint, again, acrylic craft paint, you just like catch the details and it looks really nice. I had to do a few coats, but it was fast and fun. And this is the point where I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually gonna work. It was really satisfying. Once the white is painted on and that's all dry, if you have molds like I do where there are two pieces, you're gonna glue them together. So I did 2-piece molds because some of like the little silhouettes I was using were too small to be on their own as ornaments. So then I also used like a frame mold, and then together the silhouette and the frame, or like this frame and a Christmas tree, made for a good size ornament. And now it's the part that's also really fun, which is adding ribbon. For any of my thick ornaments, I am using trim or little bits of ribbon to cover the edges. Like some of those didn't look great, and the ribbon just makes it look really fancy. And on the back, I am hot gluing a loop of ribbon so that this is how you will attach it to the Christmas tree. And once all the ribbon is on, the project is done and you can just enjoy your beautiful little pieces. I put mine on a little Christmas tree so I could see them all together at once, and I really love the rainbow ombre look. I think it's really pretty. I think they're very sweet. Some turned out better than others. I had cracking in a few of them, and I think that's because when I pulled them off I wasn't careful enough, and like it kind of like broke when I was removing the clay off the mold. My last few I was in a bit of a hurry, and those are the ones that had more issues. So take your time. This would be a great project to watch a movie, like a Christmas movie, and this is a really pretty quick project besides the dry times, so it's a great holiday weekend project. Anyway, I'm really happy with how these turned out. I think they're very cute. They look like Wedgewood, but they also have that homemade quality, which I honestly really like, because if you fill your house with stuff you made that you like is there anything more personal, right? So I'm really happy with these, and I hope you enjoyed watching the process. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up so I know to make more videos just like this one.